Revealed, how a billionaire's life-changing encounter with a homeless girl inspired 1,000 lives. James Harrington strode through the glimmering streets of Chicago, flanked by sleek black sedans and clad in a perfectly tailored suit. He was a king among men, a self-made billionaire with more wealth than he could ever spend. Yet, beneath the surface of his opulent existence, a gnawing emptiness bore down on him. Each high-stakes business deal, each extravagant party felt hollow, echoing with the unresolved pain of an estranged father who had left emotional scars deeper than any financial victory. On a chilly evening, as the wind howled through the urban canyons, James collided with Clara, an unlikely encounter that would shatter the walls he'd carefully constructed. The 16-year-old girl was a world apart from his luxurious realm. Her clothes were tattered, her hair a wild mess, but her spirit burned brightly, illuminated by dreams twisted from life's cruel knitting. Their eyes met, his concern flickering like a candle against the storm, while hers shone with unshakable resolve. "Watch it," she snapped, brushing past him, but her eyes betrayed a longing for connection. Curious, James paused. Clara recounted her daily struggles, navigating life on the fringes of society. Despite her circumstances, she was filled with an infectious hope, radiant with resilience. Her laughter echoed off the concrete like music in a silence that had enveloped him for far too long. In that moment, he felt the first spark, a longing to do more than just exist in his gilded cage. Though he left their interaction with a heavy heart, the memory lingered, the excitement of her determination pushed against the weight of his own success. At the helm of his company, surrounded by the elite, he'd never dealt with such raw honesty before. The sparkle of wealth paled in comparison to the tenacity Clara projected. Yet, what could he do to help? The questions flooded in, battling through the clamor of his burgeoning ambition, that he decided to invest in a community center aimed at uplifting the city's homeless. But skepticism met him at every corner. Community members eyed him with mistrust, their whispers wrapped in disdain. "What does he know about our struggle?" they voiced behind closed doors. Friends doubted his sincerity, cloaking their concern in the guise of practicality. James was torn. The very shield that had protected him became a barrier against the warmth of meaningful connection. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As James grappled with the mounting tensions, Clara's life flourished online. Her story resonated, a reminder of resilience, of the human spirit against insurmountable odds. The community began to rally, voices uniting under a single goal: change. Watching this transformation unfold, James felt the familiar tug of purpose. Could he bridge the gap between his fortune and compassion? Could he really make a difference? Yet, in this moment of awakening, one thing became clear: this journey demanded more than mere donations. It called for sacrifice, understanding, and an unflinching connection to the very people he sought to help. The shadows of his past settled around him, and he stood at a crossroad, heart in turmoil. As he gazed out at the city, he knew one truth: redemption was possible, but the path remained shrouded in uncertainty. Would he have the courage to step into the light? Time would tell. The scent of fresh paint and sawdust filled the air as James walked into the community center, now a reality after months of hard work. He thought of Clara often, her fiery spirit etched into his mind like an indelible mark. This place was meant to be a sanctuary, a beacon of hope for those like her. He wanted to be part of something bigger than himself, to step out of the shadows of doubt that clung to him. As he moved through the space, his heart raced. Bright murals adorned the walls, colorful images depicting joy and resilience. Kids played in the corner, their laughter a sweet melody drifting through the building. Just seeing them made him smile. A few faces acknowledged him, some with smiles, others with skepticism lingering in their eyes. Their gaze felt heavy on him, a mix of hope and caution, as if they waited for him to prove himself. "Hey there!" A cheerful voice called out, snapping him from his thoughts. It was Lisa, the Center's director, full of energy and kindness. "You're just in time. We're starting a new program for creative arts next week. Your support will really help elevate these kids." James nodded, feeling a swell of pride. "What do you need from me?" "Mentorship is key. Not just funding, but being here, showing them you care." She leaned in, eyes sparkling. "We need people who will show them that their dreams matter. They need role models, not just a check." A lump formed in his throat. He had always dealt in numbers and contracts, but this was different. This was life. How could he inspire when he felt so lost himself? Closing his eyes, he envisioned Clara's expression. That fierce will to survive. "Okay, I'll do it," James replied finally, resolve pooling in his chest. Every week, he threw himself into the program. He sat with kids drawing, painting, and expressing themselves. Their shy smiles slowly turned into laughter as he stumbled through their teenage jargon, cracking jokes that fell flat but ended up making them giggle anyway. With each session, something shifted within him. The more he listened, the more he learned. They told him of their dreams and fears, painting vivid pictures of what life could be beyond the streets, but shadows weren't far behind. Some of the residents remained skeptical, watching from the sidelines, whispering that he would eventually tire of this charity project and pull back to his world of luxury. Their whispers pricked at his resolve as doubts crept in at night, clawing at his mind. One evening, as he was packing up to leave, Clara appeared, her wild hair glowing in the dim lighting. "I see you've transformed this place," she said, her voice filled with equal parts admiration and challenge. "Just trying to help," he replied, trying to keep his tone light. "Help? Or just throw cash at the problem?" She pressed, crossing her arms. "Do you really understand what we need? What we go through?" It struck a chord. "I'm trying, Clara. Do you want my presence or not?" "Presence?" Clara laughed bitterly. "You think that's enough? You want to make a difference? Then dive in, stop standing back with your money and step into our world." Her words echoed in his mind long after she walked away, stirring something deep within him. Wanting to prove her wrong became a fierce fire, and little by little, he understood, this was about shedding the weight of wealth and embracing authentic connection. What would it take to fully step into her world? James took a deep breath. If he wanted to gain the trust of Clara and the community, he would need to challenge himself in ways he never imagined before. As he stared out the window at the night sky, he knew the journey ahead would not be easy. But could he summon the strength to truly change? Would the barriers he'd built for so long finally come crashing down? The challenge loomed before him, and he realized that stepping forward meant risking everything. The sun peeked through the clouds the next morning, casting a warm glow over the community center. James felt a surge of determination as he pulled into the parking lot. He arrived early, wanting no distractions, ready to face the day head-on. After Clara's challenge lingered in his mind, he had spent the night thinking about how to make her see him differently. Inside, he found a few kids already at work, spreading paint across a large canvas that had been propped up in the middle of the main room. Their chatter filled the air with excitement. He approached them cautiously, not wanting to interrupt their flow. The vibrant splashes of color painted a picture of hope, a visual representation of their dreams spilling out into the world. "Hey guys, what's this gonna be?" James asked, his curiosity winning over his self-doubt. One of the girls, a petite bundle of energy named Mia, turned to him with a gleeful grin. "It's going to be our mural that tells our stories," she proclaimed, her eyes shining bright. "Your stories?" James repeated, intrigued. He settled down on the floor beside them, inspired by their enthusiasm. "Yeah. We're showing how we want to change our lives, like using art to tell our dreams," Mia continued, flushing with pride. James couldn't help but smile. This was what Lisa meant: authentic connection. He leaned in closer, asking each kid about their drawings, and with each answer, they opened up a little more. A boy named Clara spoke of wanting to become a chef, while another girl, Rachel, designed a backpack for those who couldn't afford school supplies. Their dreams were scattered across the canvas, layering colors, shapes, and hopes. It was a beautiful blend of youthful optimism and raw reality. As the hours rolled by, James found himself longing for more stories, more connections, more challenges. For the first time in a long time, he truly felt alive. Then, Clara walked in abruptly, her eyes scanning the room, assessing. It wasn't hard to sense the tension in the air. "Look at you, James," she said, her tone a mix of surprise and skepticism. "Actually here and not just giving orders?" "Today is different, Clara," he replied with conviction. "I want to be part of this. I want to understand." "Then show them you're committed," Clara said, crossing her arms once again. "Get your hands dirty. No more talking. Let us see actions." Something clicked. For weeks, he had been a spectator, standing in the shadows. This was the moment he could step forward. "You bet," James said, grinning as he grabbed an apron and smeared paint onto his fingers. The kids cheered as he dove into the mural, splashing colors with abandon. Mia laughed, handing him a paintbrush. "Welcome to the team." The laughter and chatter soon filled the room, the weight of skepticism fading away in the joy of creation. They painted passionately, blending their fears with their dreams. James moved from one child to another, sharing silly anecdotes about his own dreams and encouraging theirs. A shift began brewing around him, a bond forming, deepening, but as light-hearted moments turned into shared laughs, James caught Clara's piercing gaze again. Could this really be enough? Would it get through to her? Just when he began to feel the possibility of acceptance, the door swung open. A figure wrapped in layers of worn clothes shuffled in, eyes darting around as if uncertain of whether they belonged here. "Mom?" A voice trembled from the back. It was Clara. James' heart sank. The joy of the day felt fragile now. What was about to unfold? Would the happiness they had created give way to harsh realities? As the room froze, all eyes landed on the newcomer, the air thick with doubt and concern. What would happen next? James felt a knot tighten in his stomach as Clara's voice echoed in the room, sharp and sudden. The laughter and chatter faded, replaced by a palpable tension that clung to the air. He turned to see Clara's small frame rigid with uncertainty as he took a tentative step forward. "Mom?" he repeated, more softly this time, almost pleading. The figure standing by the door was hunched and tired. Layers of old clothing hung loosely on her frame, and her face, though familiar, was marked by the lines of hardship. James felt the collective breath of the room hitch. This wasn't just a visitor, but a part of the children's lives, a reality they all understood but rarely spoke about. Mia put down her brush, her bright expression dimming in an instant. "Clara, is that really?" The boy rushed forward, his small hands reaching out. "Mom! You came." His voice wobbled, a mixture of disbelief and hope colored his words. The woman's gaze shifted among the children before landing on Clara. I was worried," she stammered, the urgency in her voice breaking James's heart. "I didn't know if you were okay." James moved instinctively. He didn't want to intrude on this moment, but he could see the moment turn into chaos. The kids shifted, glancing at each other, unsure of what to say or do. He could see pain in Clara's eyes that echoed throughout the room, a fear of disappointment, a deep-rooted anxiety that perhaps came from losing connection. "Mom, I'm fine. Look what we're doing." Clara's hands waved toward the mural, a floor filled with colors that he envisioned as his future. She stepped forward, hesitating, her face a mask of conflicting emotions. James cleared his throat, feeling the weight of the moment. "It's all right," he said gently. "You're safe here. The woman's eyes darted to him. "Who are you?" she asked, suspicion mingled with hope. "I'm James. I work with the center. We're just creating something special together." He gestured to the kids around them. "They're sharing their dreams through this art." Her gaze shifted back to the mural, and for a moment, James thought he saw a flicker of pride reflected in her weary eyes. Then the flicker gave way to doubt. "Dreams?" she echoed with a shaky breath. "Can dreams really change anything?" James felt the weight of her question. This was no ordinary inquiry, this was layered with the struggles of life beyond the vibrant paint strokes. Clara stood nearby, her arms still crossed, but there was a flicker of understanding sparking in her hardened expression. "Yes," James replied, voice steady. "They can. But it starts with believing in them. It starts with support and community." The tension in the room was thick as they all looked between him and Kyler's mom. The children seemed frozen in a moment of shared understanding. "Mom, please," Kyler said softly, his vulnerability cutting through the silence. "I need you to believe in us. Believe in me." James held his breath, feeling the gravity of what was at stake. If Kyler's mom could hear this plea, maybe it would break down the walls they had all quietly built around themselves. The woman blinked rapidly, emotions swirling across her features. "But if I believe, what happens if I fail you?" "You won't fail," James assured her, stepping just a bit closer. "You can't fail if you try." Her eyes flickered to James, then to Kyler. The room held its breath, lingering in this fragile moment, unsure of which direction it would bend. And just then, a single tear escaped the woman's eye, rolling down her cheek. It was a tear that seemed to hold all the worries she had carried for far too long, and suddenly, the weight of the day shifted once more, but before they could move forward, the door swung open again, this time with a loud crash. The noise jolted everyone, pulling their attention sharply from this delicate moment. "Hey! Is this where the mural group meets?" Who was this new arrival, and how would they impact the tender exchange taking place? Would they shatter this fragile connection or somehow breathe new life into it? Everyone's eyes shifted once more, caught between hope and anxiety. The door swung wide, and in walked a tall figure. He wore a bright yellow jacket, the kind that screamed confidence. His hair was styled just right, and he had an easy smile that seemed to light up the dim room. "I'm so sorry to barge in," he exclaimed, his voice boisterous and filled with warmth. "I was just passing by and saw the wonderful art project." James felt a rush of mixed feelings as he surveyed the newcomer. The kid's excitement was palpable, but unease lingered like a heavy mist. Kyler's mother's eyes darted from the stranger to her son, uncertainty etched on her face. Who are you?" Kyler asked, edging closer to James. "I'm Jake." The man replied, hands wide as if inviting everyone into his enthusiasm. "I'm an artist too, and I love seeing young talent. This mural looks incredible." He paused, taking a moment to really look at the colorful expressions covering the walls. Mia, unable to restrain herself, bounced forward. "You really think so?" Her eyes sparkled with genuine hope. "Absolutely." Jake's enthusiasm bubbled over. "I can tell how much heart you all put into this. You guys are going to change the world with your art." James watched the kids' faces light up at the compliment. The tension was right there with them, but Jake seemed to have a way of slicing it apart, like sunshine breaking through a storm cloud. As murmurs of encouragement rippled through the room, Kyler hesitated. "But we were just about to show my mom what we're doing." His hand remained outstretched, still holding on to that connection with her, hoping she would join in on this newfound sense of community. Kyler's mother stood still, torn between the warm welcome of Jake and the fear of taking that step forward. The colors of the mural loomed behind her, a vibrant invitation that felt almost like a dare. "Mom," Kyler whispered again, softer now, vulnerable. "Please. Just look." Jake noticed the tension hanging like a shroud around them all. Hey, let us keep this going. How about I help you guys with your mural? I could teach you some techniques. Kyler's mother blinked, her eyes searching Jake's face for sincerity. Was this kindness real? What if she stepped in and complicated things further? Art can heal, Jake continued, it brings people together. Your son is doing something amazing here. He gestured toward the walls of color, then returned his gaze to Kyler's mother. Imagine your child's dreams painted right there. Wouldn't that make you proud? Kyler's hand tightened around his mother's, the connection between them a lifeline. Mom, I want you to be proud, he said, barely above a whisper. James felt the weight of the moment swell. The mural was more than just colors and paint, it was hope, a collective heartbeat pulsing with every brushstroke. As the tension stretched into an uncomfortable silence, Mia and the others exchanged hopeful glances, ready for her response, but just then, the door swung open again, this time with a hint of chaos, footsteps pounding the floor as several older kids barreled into the room. We heard your painting. Can we help? The fragile moment hung in the air, ready either to fall apart or burst into something beautiful. Kyler's mother stood there, surrounded by warmth, confusion, and urgency. Would she embrace this overwhelming connection, step into her son's world, or would fear hold her back yet again? The room held its collective breath, the future waiting on the edge of this moment. The older kids spilled into the room, their energy electric. Laughter and chatter intermingled with the vibrant colors that splashed across the walls, creating a symphony of sound and light. Kyler's mother looked momentarily taken aback, but as the newcomers joined the fray, something shifted. Hey! I love what you've done here. One of the older boys exclaimed, raving about the bursts of color that told stories and dreams of those who painted them. The others nodded, enthusiasm blooming as they circled around, peering up at the mural in awe. Can we add to it? We have some spray paint. Another girl chimed in, her voice practically bubbling over with excitement. Kyler's eyes sparkled at the thought. Yeah. We can all paint together. He turned back to his mother, words dancing in his throat. See? Everyone wants to be part of this. At that moment, the doubts in Kyler's mother's eyes began to waver. Jake, sensing the shift, took a step forward. This is what community looks like. Everyone sharing their art, their stories. It's something beautiful. His yellow jacket caught the light, almost glowing with positivity. Mom, please, Kyler urged gently. You talked about supporting me. This is part of it, right? His voice was a soft plea, filled with the innocence and hope that only a child can muster. Her heart raced as she scanned the room, the laughter and creativity sweeping over her like a wave. The paintbrushes lay waiting, so full of potential. Could she really step in, join this colorful chaos? What if she found her own voice amid all this? Just then, one of the older kids handed her a brush, its handle warm from being held. You should definitely join in. He encouraged, nudging her forward. It'll be fun. Kyler squeezed her hand tighter, his small face lit with encouragement. We can make this ours. Together. Each heartbeat felt louder in the space, as if the walls themselves listened in on the conversation. Kyler's mother felt the familiar clutches of fear push against her resolve, ready to pull her back, but something else stirred inside her, a glimmer of want, of joy. Taking a deep breath, she dipped the brush gently into a pot of bright blue paint. Okay, she said, her voice steadier than she expected. Let us make some art. The kids cheered, an eruption of noise filling the room, and as she began to paint a swirl next to Kyler's already vibrant colors, the tension inside her began to ease. She could feel it, the connection not just with Kyler, but with a world she had kept at bay for far too long. Jake grinned, moving alongside them, offering tips and guidance, but mostly encouraging the kids to let their imaginations run wild. Kyler's mother followed suit, mixing colors with a newfound excitement that she hadn't felt in years. Moments passed, and laughter echoed as colors blended, ideas exchanged, and spirits lifted higher with each stroke of the brush. As more kids joined in, the mural grew into a magnificent tapestry of dreams, fears, and hopes, a living testament to who they were becoming together. But then, as the room continued to burst with enthusiasm, the door creaked open again. This time, it wasn't just another child eager to join. The silhouette in the doorway carried a different weight, a different energy that brought with it an unwelcome chill. The crowd quieted as they turned to see who had arrived. Would this stranger bring with them something that would disrupt the beautiful moment they had just crafted together? The figure in the doorway stepped forward, revealing a tall, stern woman with sharp features and a gaze that seemed to flicker like candlelight in the wind. The room was hushed, every child's breath holding in collective anticipation. "Excuse me, what do you think you're doing here?" she asked, her voice a low rumble that cut through the joyful atmosphere. Every head turned, eyes darting from Clara mother to the newcomer, uncertainty staining their expressions. Clara mother gripped her paintbrush tighter, a wave of protectiveness surging through her. We're painting," she answered, the words a mere whisper against the woman's imposing stance. "Painting?" The woman's eyes narrowed. "And who gave you permission?" Jake, who had been painting a wild burst of orange in the corner, stepped forward. "We're expressing ourselves. This is a space for creativity and community," he asserted. The firmness in his tone bounced around the room, encouraging others to hold their ground. The woman looked around, taking in the snippets of color and laughing faces, but she didn't soften. "This place is meant for organized activities, not this chaos." She gestured dismissively at the flourishing mural. Kyler's heart raced. "But we're telling our stories," he exclaimed, his voice breaking through the tension, each word laced with innocence. "Everyone here is a part of it. Just look how beautiful it's becoming." "Beauty is subjective, kid," the stranger shot back. "This is not what people expect when they come here. You have to follow the rules." The energy shifted. Clara mother felt a fire igniting within her, fueled by every ounce of bravery she had just mustered to join in this moment. "And what if the rules hold us back?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady, but the tremble was unmistakable. "What if this chaos is exactly what we need?" The woman's eyebrows knitted together, as if processing the challenge. "This is not your art studio. There are guidelines for a reason." "Life has guidelines too," Jake replied. "But when we let go and create, that's when we truly connect. Isn't that what this is all about?" The woman hesitated, her fierce exterior wavering just slightly. Around her, colorful expressions of hope and joy flickered, remnants of their labor holding their ground against her stern demeanor. The mural, vibrant and raw, seemed to pulse with every heartbeat, telling the stories the kids had poured into it. Clara mother felt a swell of self-assertion blooming. She stepped forward, paintbrush still poised in her hand. "We're not asking for permission. We're creating something bigger than ourselves," she said firmly, her determination growing stronger with every word. Then, the silence shattered with the sound of a small voice behind her. "Can I be heard too? I want to paint." It was a little girl, standing timidly at the back, her small frame filled with a vibrant spirit. In that instant, the tension in the room transformed. Laughter bubbled up again, slowly at first, then a crescendo of joy erupted as other children shouted in agreement, some raising their hands as if to volunteer to paint, speak, and share their own stories. Clara mother turned to see the mural flickering with new life. She felt the warmth around her spreading. This was a movement, not just a moment. And as the woman's expression softened for just a heartbeat, Kyler held his breath, hoping for a sign that they wouldn't be interrupted, but just before she spoke, a loud crash echoed from the street outside, cutting through the atmosphere and grabbing everyone's attention. The stranger's eyes widened, uncertainty flickering back across her face. What had just happened out there, and how would it change everything they had built in here? With breaths collectively held, the kids and Kyler's mother turned toward the door, bracing for whatever awaited them just beyond that threshold. Would their moment of creativity survive this new test? The room was thick with a mix of anticipation and concern. Kyler's heart pounded in his chest, echoing the rising tension. He watched as the woman, her brows knitted in confusion, shifted her weight from one foot to the other. The silence felt heavy and oppressive, punctuated only by the distant honk of car horns and the scuffle of feet outside. "What was that?" a boy whispered, his eyes wide with both fear and curiosity. The others shared nervous glances, the laughter that had filled the room moments before now snuffed out like a candle in the wind. "Stay here," Kyler's mother commanded softly, her voice stealing with resolve. She had transformed from an artist anxious about taking risks into a fierce protector. She stepped closer to the door, paintbrush still in hand as if it were a sword meant to defend her territory. The children huddled together, their little faces painted with worry. What could be waiting outside? They exchanged whispers, discussing the loud noise, the crash, the chaos that intruded on their sanctuary of color and creativity. Kyler's hands trembled, not just from fear but from excitement. The mural they had created, their splash of vivid stories, suddenly seemed vulnerable. Would this intruder, whatever it was, take their joy away? His mother peered through the small window in the door, her expression shifting from concern to a mixture of horror and determination. "I think we need to see what is going on," she finally said, her voice steady even as her heart raced. "But we need to be careful." Jake stepped up beside her, leaning to glance out. "There's a group of people out there and it looks like someone fell." His voice was small, the reality of the situation settling thickly over them. "Their stories matter too," Kyler said suddenly, surprising even himself. There was a deep connection between their creativity and the world outside, the hardship that sometimes defined it. The woman standing in the doorway, still hesitant, took a half step back as she considered the weight of their mural and the echoing call for expression. She hadn't suspected or considered that what she viewed as chaos could also be a lifeline, a community-born courage. "Maybe," she began, her words trailing off as she reconsidered. "Maybe there's a reason this is happening now." Just then, a child's yelp rang through the air, bringing them all back to the moment. "Look!" It was that little girl. She pressed her face against the window, eyes bright with a mix of anxiety and fascination. "They need help." And with that, without a second thought, Kyler's mother flung the door open, the air rushing in with a mixture of heat and uncertainty. She led the children outside, Jake beside her, and a flood of vibrant paintbrushes gripped tightly in their hands as if they were tools for healing rather than mere creativity. They stepped into the scene unfolding before them, the street filled with townfolk gathering around a fallen figure. Murmurs rose like a tide, and the shift in energy was palpable. For the first time, the children felt the weight of their own voices against the backdrop of the outside world. "What if we included them?" Kyler's voice rose amidst the uncertainty, filling the air like the colors they had painted just moments before. "What if our mural could tell their stories too?" His suggestion hung in the air like a promise, full of possibility. The woman's gaze met his contemplative, perhaps even inspired. She seemed to see it too, the connections forming between worlds, the urgency to bring together the narratives of the close and far.as murmurs turned to shouts, and cries for help became calls for community. Kyler realized this moment was far more important than they could have ever imagined. What they had built was about to transform a living testament to resilience, connection, and the shared heartbeat of humanity, but before anyone could voice their next move, the loud siren of an approaching ambulance cut through the tension, pulling everyone's focus back to the chaos. What would they do next? Would their act of solidarity blossom into something even bigger? The answer lingered just outside their reach, hovering like the paintbrushes in their hands, and each child felt it pulse with every heartbeat. Would their new mission be enough to change the world around them? Or would they just become part of an even bigger story unfolding right before their eyes? The street buzzed with energy, a swirling mix of tension and urgency. Kyler held his breath as the group of townsfolk slowly formed a circle around the fallen figure. A woman lay sprawled on the pavement, her eyes fluttering as if caught between worlds, uncertainty etched across her face. The sight sent a shiver through Kyler, but it also ignited a spark of purpose. "Let us go," Jake urged, clutching his paintbrush like a knight preparing for battle. His wide eyes reflected both fear and bravery. Clara nodded, filled with a rush of hope, their small feet moving in unison toward the scene. His mother was already kneeling beside the woman, her hand reaching out to comb the tangled hair from her face. The children stood back a little, hearts pounding and minds racing. What could they do? They were just kids, armed with paintbrushes and creativity. But Clara felt an invisible thread pulling them in. "Does someone have a phone?" A man shouted from the crowd, glancing around, his voice shaking with panic. The urgency of the situation slapped the kids back to reality, grounding them. They needed to act, but what could any of them do in this moment? "I'll call," a woman shouted as she hurriedly fished for her phone. The collective sigh of relief that followed felt almost like air returning to the lungs. But for Clara, it wasn't enough. They had voices. They had stories. Could they use those to bridge the gap? "Maybe we can help her feel safe," he blurted out, surprising everyone again, including himself. The words hung in the air for a second, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he was right. By what? Drawing hearts on the pavement? A boy scoffed, unable to understand. "No. We need to create that mural now," Clara replied, gesturing toward the wall they had painted earlier. "Art isn't just color, it's about connection. We need to show her she's not just lying there alone." His voice grew firm, fueled by the weight of the moment. His mother turned to him, her eyes glistening with pride. "You're so right, Clara. It is about connection. Get the others, and let us spread the love." A flutter of disbelief followed her words. What did they have to offer? But within moments, the other children rallied. They began sketching rapidly, their little hands moving like mad, drawing hearts and messages of encouragement on the pavement around the woman. "Hope lives here," shouted one girl, a line rippling through the crowd. Soon, more joined in, carrying paintbrushes that seemed to glow with the urgency of the moment. Clara watched the mural take shape, breathing in the colors of creation, feeling the intensity of their purpose sharpen with every stroke. The expressions of the townsfolk were shifting, worried faces began to soften, and murmurs of admiration took the place of panic. As the ambulance arrived, red lights flashing, Clara's heart raced not just with fear but with the thrill of uniting their art with a real-world need. The woman on the ground smiled faintly at each colorful heart being painted around her, the warmth of their kindness breaking through her pain. "See? They see us!" Clara shouted, his voice hoarse but powerful. The children cheered, the energy in the air crackling like static electricity. "We can change this, one story at a time." But just as the paramedics reached for the fallen woman, a voice rang out, breaking through the excitement. "Wait! She needs something more." A tall figure stepped out from the crowd, a girl about Clara's age, eyes fierce with emotion. "She needs to know something else, something bigger." Clara's heart sank. What was this girl talking about? There was an urgency now, something beyond their colorful hearts. The crowd shifted uncomfortably, murmurs rising again as curiosity and confusion filled the air. What message did this girl have that was so urgent? Would it change everything they had tried to build in that moment? Every eye turned toward her, and Clara felt his pulse race. What was coming next? The girl stepped forward, determination radiating from her like the sun breaking through clouds. "She needs to know she's not alone. She needs us to show her she belongs somewhere, that we all have worth." Her words hung in the air, strong and unwavering. A collective hush settled over the crowd as people processed her message, their expressions reflecting a mixture of hope and uncertainty. "Right!" Clara exclaimed, the spark of inspiration igniting in his chest. "We're all part of this community. We all have stories to tell, and this mural, our mural, can show that." His voice, filled with passion, reverberated through the shocked silence. The kids around him nodded, their little faces lighting up with understanding. They weren't just painting with colors, they were painting a connection. In that moment, Kyler's mother squeezed his shoulder, pride swelling in her heart. Let us gather together. Let us create something that shows all of our stories. She encouraged, her earlier nervousness melting away. She turned to the townsfolk, those standing on the edges of their fear. Everyone, come. Share your stories. Write a word, draw a line, let us make sure everyone sees just how much we care. With newfound enthusiasm, families joined in. Molding the chaos into vibrant energy, people began moving, sketching, expressing. The mural transformed under their collective heartbeat, a canvas painted with tales of sorrow, laughter, and hope. It became a tapestry of voices, colors swirling and intertwining into something beautiful. Kyler looked around, filled with energy. Each brush meant something. Each message spoke volumes. Their gathered community began to burst forth with expression. I see you. Someone shouted while painting a blue heart. You matter. Echoed another, filling the air with pride. Suddenly, amidst the laughter and art, the previously stern stranger stood silently at the edge, her earlier discontent now replaced with astonishment. The transformation taking place before her eyes was palpable. Maybe this is what it's all about, she murmured, her rigid posture softening. One child then called out, can we give her an art piece? Pointing excitedly to the woman sprawled on the ground. One that says she's loved. That she belongs here. The crowd hummed with delight, the air thick with excitement and digging deep into what held them all together. As the mural began to truly reflect their vibrant mission, the sound of the ambulance doors swung open, emergency lights flashing like a heartbeat, each pulse glittering with urgency. The paramedics rushed towards the woman, the community standing nearby like a gently protective shield. They watched as their colorful expressions painted a shield of warmth around her, words of encouragement woven into the fabric of their creation. Kyler stepped closer, his tiny frame full of courage. We painted this for you. He proclaimed, waving a paintbrush as if it were a baton. You are part of us now. None of us have to be alone. The woman blinked, her eyes glistening as they filled with tears. She seemed to absorb the kindness flowing all around her, a fragile smile breaking through her weary countenance. It felt like she had been revitalized by the very essence of humanity, the connection of hearts, the chorus of stories melding into something far greater. Just then, the newcomer in the doorway, the girl with fierce eyes, drew a simple heart on the wall. Turning to the crowd, the beauty of this moment teaches us that stories do matter, and we, together, can change the narrative. As layers of paint glistened under the morning sun, the crowd murmured in agreement, their hearts synchronized. Together they had created not just a mural but a message to the world, a testament that echoed the truth, love, connection, and understanding bridge any divide. In that decisive heartbeat, surrounded by community courage, Kyler felt a sense of fulfillment wash over him. He had transformed from just a child wanting to express himself into a voice that united a group of strangers into a family, with excitement bubbling from every corner and color. The little girl's voice rose again, let us show everyone what we can do. And with that, they all cheered, their spirits soaring higher than they ever imagined. You need to subscribe now to this channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that could inspire 1,000 more lives. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, every click really helps us grow. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. What did it mean to you? Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who truly need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share the hope and creativity that can change lives. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting our journey through these actions.